in the season, and I'd like to see them stick by it 4x4.
Well, we're going to find out. Champion select on your screen. Dia, Rudude, take it away.
All right, Rudude. Well, we've got the Sejuani first pick for Kabum. Not a terrible place to start, as Flawless will be bringing a lot of utility with Melio taken away, as well as the Rel. We won't be getting Redbird on Rel, which is a real bummer.
Fortunately, we also won't be getting Flawless on Rel either with that ban, which is the other. I want to tip my hat to. I want to tip my hat to Axeman for the Rungle call earlier, because Rel jungle, it hits. All right, that's really important for me to point out. Now, as we see from Furia, a little bit of a departure from Furia mentality. Lucian Nami locked in down on this bot side. It is a very classic pairing and very, very powerful. It's also something that has been taken away from Furia time and time again, notably because we had one pop-off performance from these two down on the bot side in week 1. And since then, there was a lot of people going, maybe not. Maybe not for you. Thank you very much.
Kabum are stepping into this tango. They may not have a lane that fights as well as Lucian Nami, but Zyra Khan is going to be a really good combination and hopefully will allow for just enough fighting power to stay alive through the onslaught of Furia. I will say, if Furia lock in Annie here, that's it. Serious Furia was not in the room with us, and they are bringing them back. This Maokai, along the same train of thought, this is going to be very, very standard from what we expected to see through the season, and I like that we're getting to see this bounce back. After their loss yesterday, they're changing it up.
I think it's important to highlight that yesterday was a unserious, to use this metaphor, Furia across the composition, but realistically the majority of games have just been Ayu and Zai going, yeah, Pyke looks good here, sure, Belveth looks good. It's the bot lane who are pulling out these unique picks. The Neela has only been piloted by Ayu so far, and we've seen Goot and Betao have to a little bit succumb to that and go, our bot lane are playing these crazy things again. We have to be as normal in the top side as we can so that we don't just completely crumble. And these things like the Maokai, we've seen a couple of really powerful Gnar games from Betao, strong just team fighting tops that have been able to subsidize the, let's say, wacky nature of Ayu and Zai down on that bot side. So the Maokai, as you say, not a particular detraction from what we would have expected to see from Goot, but still very nice nevertheless.
And to the credit of Betao, who you were just pointing out, one of the best team-fighting top laners that I've seen this split has just been so unselfish, and with his own bump up from Academy as well, Betao has seriously impressed, and I'm looking forward to the development of this player over the course of the season, because as you say, we have seen a lot of this stabilizing play. But now that we've got an R5 available, I do wonder if they'll start to shift that. I don't expect it. I wonder.
Yeah, and I think that this is really smart from Furia as well, because they're saving their counter pick for what we imagine is the stronger part of Kabum, being Lonely in the top side, or maybe what I expect to be the strongest part of Kabum in Lonely. Krastial's going to have an answer to the Ahri in the mid lane. No surprises to see the Azir locked in. Just last game, guys. If you missed game 1, go watch it, and maybe skip 15 minutes, because, you know, we did a little bit of snoozing. But the Azir popped off, and I think that taking this into the Ahri, absolutely fine matchup. An interesting Jax here. There are a couple of blind pick options that they could have gone for, notably, you know, more tanky style, but not been picked up this time round. We may have to find Betao on something, again, a little safer than Gnar. Not the worst thing in the world versus a Jax, and could just be that safety feature.
We know Maestro trusts the bot lane. Does he trust the top lane? Does Betao trust himself? The Poppy lock-in is going to have that trust deferred to another day. It's not strictly the hardest counter into Jax, but Betao should survive the lane.
Should be able to press W and then make sure Lonely can't jump on him. Honestly, it's not just for this Jax either. Poppy, I remember when Rakan first got released, I was friends with a support player who used to play pretty much exclusively Poppy support into Rakan because of the matchup, and you could just prevent engages. That extrapolates to team fights as well. Sejuani, Azir, Jax, Rakan, all going to want to jump in. Steadfast presence, very powerful at stopping them from being able to do so. So this Poppy, not just for the lane, but for the team fights as well.
And since we've got that set up, I mean, you've got a very tanky front line with the Ahri picked up for Tuts. Not on any duty this time around, and Ahri builds have been a central focus. 4x4 As we're bringing you back in, what are you expecting out of this Ahri Azir matchup that is rapidly becoming the center of attention?
I'm expecting the Azir to do great things, and I'm expecting Crastiel to have a pop-off game. I think you are going to see this man try extremely hard to get plays started. I mean, it's going to be up to him and Redbird, right? These two are the stabilizers. They're going to be the ones making plays, and I think they are going to be extremely aggressive. Look, they're 0-5. They've got their backs against the wall here, but I think they have been given a lot of agency now. And Flawless, he's been up and down. He hasn't really impressed like Kabum fans maybe have hoped. But I think these two, they're going to will Kabum to a competitive game here. I'm expecting them, even if they go down, they will go down fighting. It's going to be on the back of Crastiel and Redbird. Fellas, take it away.
All right, Rudy, it's time to jump onto the Rift and see what this is all about. We saw House come back just last game. Crastiel with the same champion may be able to give us the same story. On the other side, now that Furia have drafted a little bit more, we'll say traditionally, are they finally going to get that chance and clap back this weekend, avoid going 0-2?
I'm so glad that we got to bring 4x4 in there. So I think grounded a little bit of the expectations. I felt very Furia favored through that draft, but I don't think anything that Furia said was inherently wrong. There are a lot of Kabum playmaking tools, and you know your eyes are on Redbird. They're on Flawless as well to try and find advantages either at that level 6 marker or during the mid game to try and find the lead. Redbird is able to take out that ward now. May not seem like the biggest advantage, but the fact that they're going to have vision of Zai if he's trying to play that brush for the early laning phase, certainly going to be very powerful at keeping safety for the bot lane and likely be able to protect Raven and Redbird.
Quick thing I've noticed compositionally, since we were talking about blocking a lot of dashes with the Poppy, keeping everybody at bay, Furia don't have that much engaged themselves. They've got Touch Charm, they've got Poppy Face, and... question mark?
we have Nature's Grasp, and honestly, the follow-up from sort of Maokai ulti and Nami ult, they may be very, very slow, and I can't take that away from them because, you know, they are very telegraphed engages. But they exist for a reason, and they can obviously give a fairly decent zone control at the very least. The other option is, of course, and we've seen Betal on the Poppy before, mine goes back to a game that 4x4 and Axeman had, of Betal shoving people out of the Baron pit with the Keeper's Verdict. I have to hold my breath a little bit because this bot side has already started off a little bit spicy. Zai already burned Summon a heal, and Redbird is sitting at fairly low HP, looking for a level 2 between these two bot laners. It is going to be Kabum that hit it first.
Ridiculously confident, and Redbird will be able to heal up just a bit, keeping the Kabum bot lane, who was under a little early pressure, topped up. With IU having the wave come over to him, it's actually a really nice play for Furious, and Scoots has just cleared up to the top side, and you don't want to be overextending with Flawless around bot lane.
Yeah, he's actually skipped a lot of pants here to make this dive play happen. We'll see if Furia call for their jungler. Goot looks like he's opting into just an absolute full clear. It means that if Flawless can take this blue, it's actually just going to be a 3-buff start for the Kabum jungler, leveraging that bot lane advantage, the pushing nature of the Zyra Khan, to be able to find a buff, find a lead, and hopefully take just the smallest advantage through these first couple minutes.
Flawless has got it. Goot finds out, well, more or less right now as he passes by the previous station of the blue buff, Sapling in brush, and no longer feels safe entering his own side of the jungle. As you say, Gambit pays off for Kabum, and a quick recall out of Raven and Redbird nets you an extra longsword. If they can get back to the lane fast enough, they can really make use of this extra laning pressure against IU and Zai.
Something to note that happened in the mid-season that particularly pertains to these early cheater recalls, where you like push 3 waves, go back to base, don't miss any experience, actually got a lot harder on the mid-season patch because bot lane waves, or side lane waves let's say, come into the lane 10 seconds faster. So missing out on experience is almost a formality when you go for these early wave crashes. I think I've seen it executed once, and it's actually on the 4th wave where it gets easier to execute on because you've just got more minions to try and crash into the turret. But Raven will have missed out on a little bit of experience. It looks like that Furia, though, are more than happy to just trade these crashes down in the bot side. And the way you know you've done it well, for those of you at home that are going to try and execute on a big crashed wave, is you want the melee minions of the next wave that's coming in to also go under the turret so that they die very quickly.
I tell you what, Rude, I think we got some of the Portuguese crowd excitement backing you up on the wave state there, because that was what was happening during that section, and I could hear people losing their minds as scuttle crabs were taken and waves were crashed. Absolutely a
It's the little
testament
things.
to the passion, exactly, of the audience over in Brazil. Lonely and Batau currently duking it out in the top side. Have taken just a single recall on the side of Lonely, but with no teleport expended. It's still slow play for everyone on the map. The big difference here is going to be that the Cloud Drake has spawned just about now as I wrap up the point, and it's time for us to start thinking about neutral objectives that Kabum can play around with their early strength.
Oh, hold on. Okay, good little dodge there from Ayu, and Redbird, I think, takes a turret shot there also.
Two of them.
Two of them, yeah. Well, not ideal, typically, for your trading patterns, but you can see Redbirt's able to get out alive. Not a particular concern there. Our neutral objectives for the early stages of this game, honestly, dear, I'm very much of the opinion it's whoever's wave state in bot lane is going to be better. Both of these mid laners can push on a whim. We've got Dematerialize and now fully used for Tuz. But you can use Orb of Deception and you can use Azir Wave Player to get through those waves very quickly, make your way down the bot lane a little more fragile in how easy it is to try and make these plays and these pushes specifically. The Scoot is in the Baron, Dragon Pit, has started it up. Now Kabum are coming out of base and they've got the slightest advantage in bot lane items. We've seen this from CBLOL teams in times gone by, just a YOLO start of a dragon and it go poorly. We'll see if Furia can execute.
Tuts hasn't matched the recall of Crastiel either, so should Fin laners join in this fight, there's going to be a pretty harsh disparity, but Raven's not moving, and as it appears, Kabum simply do not want to participate in the taking of this dragon. Giving up a Cloud Drake, I will say, still not going to be that bad for you in the early game, as that particular Drake is good on a single, but not unbeatable.
Okay, and in the lanes, this is where your important sort of sacrifice came, because we saw Furia and both Tuts and Ayu pretty much miss out on not necessarily a full wave, but miss out on a couple of creeps. That's a win for Furia. They get that dragon, and now if they want to play for the neutral objective on the top side, they certainly can. With Rift Herald spawning in about a minute and a half's time, you get to see who gets this push in on the bot side, make that first rotation up to the top lane and see if that Rift Herald is worth playing for. Worth mentioning then, with that the top lane has been looking more Lonely favoured. We're always seeing the Jax aggress onto the Poppy. Batau we saw use the Keeper's Verdict just defensively, kept himself alive and still very even with the Jax, but it is looking like Lonely is the one who's forcing the advantage.
And the nice thing is that for the side of Kabum, that's where they get a pretty big spike as well. It's towards the top side of the map. When you complete the first items, you're going to be feeling really confident, whereas in the bot side, we're seeing the opposite dynamic play out. It's Ayu right now who has had the charge of the bot lane. He and Zay being able to push up and take trades whenever they like. You don't want to fight Illusion in the early game, and that's where Furia are powerful right now. It's why you see Goot constantly revisiting this lane.
Now, he doesn't have much mana. Goot doesn't have range unless he wants to commit the flash, but it would have only been traded by either one of the Kabum bot laners. And we see now, was that Rift Herald is spawning pretty much on the dot. Goot shows his face down on the bot side of the map, and it's Flawless who gets first dibs.
Pretty good old CBLCK. That's what it's looking like to me, Rude. The way that we're playing right now, very risk-averse, and that goes for both rosters, Kabum and Furia, both understandably, as they're trying out new things, and for now, that's going to be just fine for everyone. As we said, though, the first item spikes will change quite a bit, and with a Rift Herald going over to Flawless, I like that Kabum have a little bit more agency during the early stages of the game. Their level 6s, great, of course, for finding an engage out of nowhere, and now, when you find that play, you can punish it all the better with shelling.
Okay, let's talk about the compositions as a whole here, dear. We've got this very quiet early game. Who does this favour? For me, Kabum are laughing right now. They are very happy with how this game is playing out. They have Azir to scale into the late game. They've got Xayah and Jax to scale into the late game. If we just go pound for pound across all three lanes, I favour the scaling aspect of Kabum in all three of them. The playmaking potential for Furia is a little bit higher. They've got the Ahri to dash in, they've got the Maokai to follow up as well. But in terms of raw damage, it's going to be much easier for Kabum to take a solid 5v5 team fight up against Furia.
Especially if they don't find early advantages against, say, a critical lane like the bot lane. Goot clearing out the jungle. Flawless has shown up and is ready to party. A single knockup would change this, but remember, IU has Cleanse Flash, and we've seen incredible reaction times out of this player. He's got to know that something's up, playing over towards the jungle.
I think they're waiting for Redbert 6 before they go for it. He's level 5 right now, and if they can chain that, it makes the combo of cleansing harder.
Oh, didn't quite get it. Pops the minion, but Redbird's still a little bit of XP off.
Wonderful.
Flawless, however, is going to flash forward IU, flashing himself. Now we've got the Glacial Prison down onto Zay, but the cards are reversed as Nature's Grasp comes in, coming up just short of Raven, and ultimately leaving everybody walking away hands empty, Rooted. It was a lot of setup for not very much gained.
So Summoner spells burned are Flawless Flash and IU Flash, and then a couple of utility ones on the supports Heal and Ignite both going down. IU still has Cleanse if a Return Sejuani ult comes down, and obviously if Redbert tries to engage with that ulti. Now, a small trend that we're seeing is that Crastial is not moving for these plays as much as Tuts. Tuts is more than happy to make a roam down to that bot side, where Crastial, whilst right now they're both level 9, it's probably a waves advantage in terms of experience on the Azir, just because he's pushing and relying on his team to be able to play without their mid laner.
Flawless been forced to make their way back down to the bot lane as well with the Tuts roam that you talk about, pressuring him out of the jungle. Goot's going to be able to pick up the Raptors as a result, and we're seeing a little bit of jungle CS equalize as Goot's able to use saplings for vision control and a little bit of dissuasion. Flawless. Next dragon coming up in 9 seconds. Infernal, a much more attractive dragon about to hit the table, and I wonder what these teams will do. Kabum weren't able to grab the Drake last time. Can they change the course of history?
Well, they haven't taken their resets, but they're the ones that are out on the map at the minute. Crastial has a full Liandry's already. It's very, very powerful if they look to take a skirmish. Grabs a couple of plates for himself. It's actually just the second one there as an extra attack comes through. But now there's been resets for the bot side as well. IU has that full Kraken Slayer. Tuts has got a lot of ability haste in his back pocket, and if there was to be a fight around the bot side, we are looking at an execution style of composition. One that at this stage in the game, give a little bit of your tip of the hat to Furia. The early power of Illusion, very powerful indeed.
We've seen this before, but Tao just disengaging from Lonely again and again. The Keeper's Verdict has actually been on cooldown quite a bit during this game, but committing that hasn't net the rest of the map too much. As we look towards this next dragon, though, that both teams are posturing around, both top laners have teleport. Vision's been set up for Furia ahead of time. Control ward going to be cleared out just in the nick of time, you have to imagine, but the dragon gets started. Furia want to take this now, and Raven's not moving.
Both top laners have CP, they're both basing as well.
Pick up the GP, you have to imagine, from Lonely. Here he is on the flank, jumping onto Zywell in the front lines. We got the first kill of the game. Goot has gone down. IU is melted next. Raven showing up to the fight. And Matau a little bit late. Not going to be able to catch anybody on this one. Tuts tries to run from Crastiel, but the Azir with that completely entries is just too strong. And Kabum, they are the ones that take the dragon and the fight.
Simply put, better execution from Kabum. Their setup around the objective wasn't great, but they had a couple of really important wards and really nice flank angles. You see this pink ward in the Tri-Brush where Raven is, allowed for a Crastial angle to get into the pit, and there was a ward just below the blue buff of Furia, which allowed a really good teleport from Lonely. IU got collapsed on and was never able to contribute to this fight. You can see it's the startup from Furia, and they're the ones that are, as you'd mentioned earlier on, dear, struggling for an engage, struggling to fish. Redbert's ward there is your important one. Gives the Jax a really nice angle to join in from. And Betal teleports in, but it's not actually in. He's nowhere near this fight. Goot goes in absolutely solo, gets shuffled away and goes down instantly, and Raven with a really positive, proactive flash lands a root onto IU. No flash from that earlier gank down on the bot side, and he is just a sitting duck.
Man, Vitao just could not catch a break there either. Like you said, no real good place to be, and that's why you pick up a seasoned veteran like Redbird. Vision becoming so important in that fight to unlock the roster of Kabum to win it. It's a big shift in their favor because, like you said, Rudude, now they not only have a mid-game advantage, but that scaling is still going to be present. I'll say even accelerated after this.
Yep, if you're going into a mid-game when you're ahead, even though your composition is theoretically weaker at that stage in the game, certainly a powerful position for Kabum to find themselves in. Now they are sort of A-ramming a little bit here. There is this second Herald. Now I would love to see Krastiel actually just walk bot lane. You've got teleport, it's unleashed at this stage in the game, and you can just be wailing away on that bot tier 2 turret. You don't want aggressive TP wards for the Azir. You can see a lot of posturing. Redbird goes.
Instantly getting blocked by Vitao, though! He gets blown up in the front lines. Redbird gonna be the first to fall as Vitao's steadfast presence saves the team fight for Furia.
And that's exactly what you pick this Poppy for, and that's why you want Vitao at the start of the fight. The TP in from Poppy, we saw at the Drake, not impactful at all. Being present with your team, preventing the initial engage, is exactly what leads Furia to finding that advantage and plays right into Kabum's potential to engage. The Rift Herald goes over to Furia. They may well be able to put some gold back into IU. This mid-tier 1 turret, the likely recipient of gold. And we'll have to wait and see who it is that's going to come out on top in the prolonged play. But for right now, Furia very happy.
Yeah, that was a really nice way to recover after the last dragon as well. Lonely, gonna try and turn things around, just keeping Tuts off of the wave for a moment. Has got the Divine Sunder now, so all the more deadly in these side lanes. Now got a lot more oomph, a lot more power behind the punches. Everybody taking a reset, however, for Kabum is not a bad idea because, as you said, the next objectives are really where we're looking, and you've got to be ready to match Furia when they eventually choose to use that Rift Herald.
Do you want to talk about that top lane mythic? Divine Sunderer, of course, not the Trinity Force, which we've had a lot of we'll say discussion around about its power level and how high up the power level of Trinity Force is. Do you want to touch on how much I like the Divine Sunderer in this case specifically? Has obviously Tank Shred built into the kit, and also gives a little bit more HP. It's actually fairly tanky as an item when you're playing up against a tank top laner like Vitao. The multiple procs of Divine Sunderer are going to give you multiple injections of extra health, which when paired with Grasp of the Undying, it's going to make Lonely split push very scary the later this game goes.
You know, it's funny, looking at the game that we're watching now versus the games that we saw yesterday, it's like we're on a different patch.
Yeah.
No static shiv, right?
I know.
I'd expected to see it everywhere, and yet, thankfully, everybody's chilling.
Yeah, but I was letting the side down, honestly. I mean, you haven't seen my static shift Poppy go crazy, but that buckler, you build a rapid fire cannon, that thing goes crazy.
It does, it does. We might still get the chance. I'm not going to count this out just yet. Furia have shown us the Bel'Veth support. They've shown us the Nilo and no one else will. Maybe it's time for rapid fire static Poppy, but that'll be something for the next couple of minutes. As for right now, tank item selected first, and they're going to have to face up against a Furia who are positioning rather confidently. There goes the cleanse from IU, baited out as Redbird gets the next knock-up. Counter-engage from Zay keeps his AD carry alive, and through the whole thing as well. Single-digit health on Goot, but Flawless is the one that's going to go down. Zai picks up the kill, and Kabum lose a big fight in the mid lane. Charm connects Krastiel, half health, and Rift Herald summon. Furia want more.
And they're going to be able to take a Drake off of this mid-tier 1 turret, almost likely to fall as well. Furia instead decide that their attentions are more focused toward the Dragon. Decent enough wave play between the Xayah and the Azir right there. Drake goes down for Furia though, a really disjointed fight. Glad that we get to see it once again. Your key factors here. Keep your eyes on Raven and Krastiel at the timing of this engage. Raven, Krastiel, no damage yet, no damage yet, no damage yet. Constantly zoned by Nami Wave, by Nature's Grasp. They actually did 0 auto attacks. that entire fight. Raven just got his first one there onto Betal, while the rest of Furia are layering all of their damage into the front line of Kabum.
And that's, I think, exactly why at the start of the game I was going, well, you don't really have an engage, and you were thinking, yeah, but you do have Nami Wave. You do have Nature's Grasp. You're seeing the impact, the counter-engage potential of Furia right now, and when Kabum's only option is to go in, Furia have so many responses.
I'd like to posit that they have more than they have more options than just go in. Obviously, your Sejuani and your Rakan very good at doing that. Rakan also very adept at sort of fluctuating in a team fight, and I use that word to mean can be disengaged, can be engaged as well. Doesn't have to be solely to find Ayu, to find Tuts. Sejuani, it's a little bit more difficult. So if those engages aren't going well, I'm happy to see this from Kabum where they pivot the playstyle a little bit. Okay, we found 5v5s aren't working for us. Lonely, enjoy side lanes, buddy. That's where you're winning. Hopefully, anyway.
In theory, yeah. I was watching the train go off and just clenching a little bit. Betal, unfortunately, going to be bullied by the Azir. Is still full tank Poppy, but not going to be too happy about this anyway. Fortunately, it's what we've come to know Betal for. The legendary weak side top lane team fighter. It's what he's done this game, and it's what he's going to continue to do as the rest of Furia play the map as they, God well please.
And I'm not sure if the two teams initiated this sort of lane swap, but this is a swap that is in favor of Kabum, because you can see they've actually taken these 2 tier 1 turrets in the side lanes, as opposed to just the one that we got to see from Tuts. Lonely managed to get the first one a little bit earlier on. But Crastial is bullying Betal because that Poppy has 0 MR outside of those Mercury Treads. And when I'm staring down, you know, Leandri's better components of a Nash's Tooth, Merc Treads aren't cutting it.
Unfortunately not. Let's see what gets picked up in the next couple of minutes. Perhaps wanting to rectify that, because if Betal was watching last game, you know that Azir is going to be a problem. It's simply a matter of time. Tuts will be rotated up into the top side to try and complete the play that he started on in bot lane, picking up the tier 1 tower there, maybe able to find the same sort of result now that he's been pivoted up to the north. But the mid lane is going to be confidently held down by Ayu and Zai as we wait for the next objective. Baron's up now, neither team really looking for those, but Betal caught out a bit. There's plenty of vision here for Kabum. They know Poppy is alone.
Not the target that you want to commit all of your resources to, though. With Betal, obviously they saw Zai, so there was a little bit of extra disengage there, and with the Keeper's Verdict as well. Actually fairly difficult to try and lock down this Poppy. But I want to take a quick look at our scoreboard here, because even though we've seen Furia have, let's say, the momentum in the back half of the last 10 minutes, it's actually Kabum dead even in gold, right? Despite the losses in teamfights that they've taken, they've been able to use those side lanes well enough to get to a very powerful position for their composition. Heading into the 20-25 minute marker as this comp, even with a Lucian Ahri set of carries, you're very happy as Kabum, and especially with this mid-tier 1 still standing, they've got that fortitude of a mid lane that they can play around very heavily to keep their jungle protected.
These are where the big trades are going to happen. If Furia are able to blow up this game, it's going to be in the next 2 fights. The one perhaps coming up around Dragon in just a minute. They've been, as you say, unable to crack this mid lane just yet, but Drake is a great way of taking the mid priority that they've been able to secure and transitioning it into something real.
Gonna have to keep our eyes on these Dragons. The issue with it being sort of 2-1 at this point, neither team particularly bound to take the Dragon. You know, neither of these teams have to contest for that bot side objective, and that means that if either one of them overcommit to the top side of the map, or overcommit to the bot side of the map rather, that the other can just head up and take that Baron quite easily. So there's this game of give and take that you have to play with these neutral objectives now, that both of the teams have to manage delicately.
We haven't been seeing a whole lot of Azir in the weeks leading up to now, so most of the time we hit the 20-minute mark and go, can they burn it? In this case, yeah, Kabum could burn it if they really wanted to. It's absolutely an option, and Furia, playing with that knowledge, are playing this fight slow, letting Betal out in front, the big counter engage that needs to exist for Furia to come out of this fight successfully. Lonely on a flank, however, could change all of this. We've already seen Lonely flanks decimate Furia before, and right now, he's completely unspotted.
Okay, so Goot saplings do good work for scouting, but if he's not looking, it's hard.
There's no way. What? The dash away. The Gale Force keeps IU alive. He's now joined by Zai in the backside. And Crestiel doesn't get the Shurima shuffle. There's the big shutdown the Furia we're looking for. The Azir assassinated in the enemy backline. Flawless will die next, and Furia take the fight.
And Furia do what Furia do best. 5 versus 5. Their composition may be worse, but their hands are better. Outmaneuver, out-team fight, and come away with the dragon.
How is IU not dead, man?
It's not just that. IU is full HP. The reactions were insane. Vital's chasing out Lonely as well. Redbird's here. They both get away. Dragon falls 3-1 now in favor of Furia. I really hope we get to see that fight again. Taking a glimpse at how fast IU gets out. Dash plus flash gets him away from the Lonely stun. I think Flawless maybe baits him a little bit. And another dash gets away from Crestiel's Shurima shuffle. Zay uses the flash, and it means that your Azir, unfortunately, left in no man's land. Once again, the rest of the team unable to follow up. We've just seen Lonely use all of his spells to try and find IU. Not able to get himself back into that team fight. It looked so good for Kabum. Unfortunately, it just wasn't.
God, it did. So close. And now, as we were talking about, the game has taken one further step towards an explosion for Furia. We said the next 2 fights needed to be in their favor. Furia found one. They've taken out the dragon. Now we've got the big neutral objective. The Baron's still standing, but the mid lane tower of Kabum no longer does.
Okay, so the thing is that fight for Furia is probably not very replicatable. Because if Crestiel does that again, that's when we start to have issues. You get one fight for me, as every Azir, where you think that you're Himi, and you just can't find the fight. And we're going to look to see if they find the second fighter on the top side.
Good stuff for Tuts. A little bit of damage, but Flawless gets caught on the dash. No more escapes after that. Culling is not going to connect on him, but it will take down Redbird. And Flawless follows right after, both at the hands of Goot. A surprisingly bloodthirsty trade.
Now, the Demonic Embrace and the 10-stack Darksteel actually doing quite a lot of work. With the jungler down, the support down as well, Baron is on the menu. Now, Kabum do have all 3 carries, all still with ulti. Lonely also has flash. Great charm, though.
Tuts just keeps getting away with this. How does he do it? Almost assassinating Crestiel entirely, but with Lonely's teleport in, Vital puts up the safeguard, not allowing the engage. Raven's going to try and put out a lot of damage as in goes once again Lonely, going golden this time, finding a 2-person stun. Furia on the disengage, playing the kite back excellently. Take him down. In comes the shuffle, but Crestiel trades his life, and Raven goes down once again to the bloodthirsty tree.
First strike in conjunction with the dot damage of Demonic Embrace takes down the Xayah. Now, whilst there may have been a lost fight there for Kabum, it's worth remembering that their mission was to stop Furia from taking that Baron. They were successful in that mission, and hopefully it doesn't go down during this replay as a consequence. Tuts doing beautiful job on this front side, just running anchor, layering the CC between Charm, Bubble, and Everfrost. Crestiel's already 1 HP before this fight even begins. Now, I have to say, Raven here, using his callback of the feathers before he uses the Feather Storm, a little bit of a misplay for me. Would like to see him put those feathers down before, so that he gets a bigger pullback, more damage. But Crestiel again, just not quite understanding the full power of the Azir. Wasn't able to get as many people with that shuffle as he thought, and diving in there resides himself to death, where he only trades 1 back, and it could have been a lot more.
Almost as dramatic as Timothée Chalamet.
That's
what we're going for right now. I've been educated this week. Rudude's given me a lot of Timothées to whip out, so in the next couple of broadcasts, y'all better be prepared, because they're coming, and evidently, so are Furia.
Oh my word.
They jumped right on to this Baron already. That's theirs. There's no way that Kabum end up contesting that. And the subsequent fight headed up by Vital is going to be separated. Furia's backline does get engaged on Zai, locked down, but nobody can truly follow up, and it's not even a close fight between these two teams. Furia are sprinting away with the game.
Crastial not a part of that fight either. Raven again barely able to auto-attack, and Furia just turning these fights again and again. We've had the two consecutive fights go their way, and they have ran away with this mid-game. Baron at their backs, soul spawning in 30 seconds. Let's take our resets. Let's head back out onto the map at full force, secure ourselves that soul, make taking us down as hard as possible. If they can close out this game within the next, let's say, 2-3 minutes or so, they're going to be very happy with themselves. But realistically, we're probably going to need a second Baron, or at the very least another fight.
Now, I will say, Rudude, this is already a success story for Furia, not because they're playing well, because they are, but because one of our focal points coming into today was how they would adapt after their game up against INTZ yesterday. A big part of this was compositionally, but as you noted in our pre-show, a lot of this also came down to INTZ not letting Furia set up the big play. And they've done a really good job this time of allowing Kabum to commit into them, not being the ones to force errors, but instead to punish them.
Punish them they have. The Poppycopter has certainly, honestly, been very, I'll say, underrated through the CBLOL. Betao, I feel like, is the only one that we've seen pull out this Poppy, and the two instances of Betao gaming on Poppy that we've seen so far this split, the first one, of course, in week 2 with the Poppycopter at the Baron, the second one, honestly, where we saw him stifle the engage of Redbird in this game with the Steadfast Presence. 2 turning points for Furia off the back of this Academy top laner who got promoted in Split 2, this split, to make a bit of a name for himself.
Split push happening up in the top side. Betao is separate from the team. Lonely's just recalled. Teleport up for Poppy, and the Dragon up for Furia. They've set up, they've knocked down the tower, and now they get to take the real objective that they were looking for this whole time. The big soul. Chemtech going to be theirs, and Goot is facing no problems, no threat from Kabum doing so.
I'll take a look quickly in the Furia inventory right now, because there are 2 stopwatches. We've got Everfrost plus Banshees for Tuts, who doesn't, granted, need a stopwatch. He's playing Ari with 3 dashes and a flash. Trying to take down Furia in any team fight got even harder when they took the soul, even harder when these items were picked up, and even harder when Maokai Nami got locked in as disengage options. Kabum, we saw earlier on that there was an option for them to play side lane and it was looking okay. I think at this point, they have to fully commit to that, and even at this stage, it's very difficult.
And when you say fully commit, we've also got to be looking at the side of Furia for this, because yes, they have a soul, and as Axeman pointed out last game, souls disproportionately equate to wins, or I should say, I suppose, proportionately, because that's what they're designed to do. And yet, when we are looking at the composition from Kabum, they do still have that late game big scaling win condition, and it may be getting less, but Furia have to close this game out. This is a great way to do so. Insta lockdown onto Redbird, doesn't let him do anything, and I suppose that's the best way to do it. If you know you're playing against a powerful engage support, just don't let him move.
Yeah, I mean, I have to call Redbird out here. The lack of Merc Treads is concerning. The amount of CC that you can tell, or that you can see on the Furia side. Do I think it saves him there? Genuinely, yes, because he can use his spells to get out to safety instead of getting chain CC'd and taken down. Now, there are a lot of cooldowns used there by Furia. Whether they can get this Drake, or whether they can get this turret, excuse me, you know, does become a little bit more difficult because they use those picks. Crastial.
Nice flash from Tuts, though, gets right out of the Azir's range. Ayu's half health, but he's going to commit over the wall to save his jungler. Going golden just in the nick of time as Raven panic ulting in the other direction. It'll be a double kill picked up by Ayu, and Furia with single-digit health bars clutch the fight. No way.
If I could give you a living example of why Souls win games, it would be that fight replayed tenfold. The Chemtech Soul makes you take less damage when you're below 50% HP. Furia, they were on very low, flashing health bars, but did not die. The healing from the Nami, the power of the Soul, all came together.
Powerful engage support? Don't let him move. I find your lack of merc treads concerning, says Furia, as they will happily take this game. Steadfast Presence goes down, locks down Lonely for a little while longer, but it's formalities.